Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, well, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, well, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, the smiles return into their faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Little darling, I see the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright.
Good morning, fellow Elioteers. I'm Trina Marlowe, a second-gen member here at Eliot, and today I'm standing in for Reverend Krista, who's on vacation up north celebrating Thanksgiving with her Canadian family. Now, I was puzzled at the timing, so being me, I looked it up, and I learned that Canada's Thanksgiving falls on the first Monday in October. Oh my, okay, who knew, right? And from what I learned, it's similar to our traditional celebration, minus most of the parade and football activities that we Americans seem to cherish so much. Let's start our morning by looking around with welcoming smiles for our visitors and friends, especially those up in the balcony. Hi. Today, we welcome special guest Robin Berkeley, who's president of the Board of Trustees at the First Unitarian Church of Alton, Illinois. And we thank Brad Johnson for today's special music, and Janice Cox is serving as our Sunday pastoral care contact. If you are new or newish and you'd like to connect and learn more, please see our greeters. And be sure to join us afterwards in Adams Hall for coffee and conversation just out these doors to the left. A special welcome if you're with us live stream today. Please send a hello email to welcome@eliotchapel.org, and we'll respond with information and answers to any questions you may have. In addition, everyone's welcome to Zoom in at 12:30 this afternoon for our virtual Coffee, Conversation, and Connections Hour. Great descriptive name, huh? You'll find these links and more at eliotchapel.org. And speaking of Thanksgiving, we're thankful that Eliot's vision is to create a just world through vibrant, beloved community. We live into our vision by welcoming everyone who comes through our doors, no matter their beliefs, family structure, class, race, gender, or sexual orientation. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the flaming chalice is our most cherished symbol. The bowl represents beloved community, and the flame is the spark of the divine that burns in each of our hearts. Please join me in reciting our congregational covenant printed in the order of service. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, and to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends. Now let's rise and embody your spirit as we sing our opening hymn number 183, The Winds of Change Forever.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so grateful to be here. My name is Robin Berkeley, And we had to do a little improvisation, right, this morning, Ken? Typically, I would bring the kids up, but since I was going to show a video, and then that didn't quite work itself out. So I'm basically going to read the transcript of the video. I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to improvise. So I'll welcome the kids to just stay with your parents, and then when we're ready to go, you can go out to do your RE today. So the story is called Change Sings, and it's a children's anthem. The words are by Amanda Gorman, who, if you are not aware, she wrote the beautiful and spoke the beautiful poem at President Biden's inauguration. And there are pictures by Lauren Long. So if you're interested in the story, you can come see me at the coffee hour, and I'll share with you where you can find it. I can hear change humming in its loudest, proudest song. I don't fear change coming, and so I sing along. Foreign with the skies of red and blue streamers, I dream with the cries of tried and true dreamers. I'm a chant that rises and rings. There is hope where my change sings. Though some don't understand it, those windmills of mysteries I sing with all the planets and its hills of histories. I hum with 100 hearts, each of us lifting a hand. I use my strength and my smarts, take a knee to make a stand. I'm bright as the light each day brings. There is love where my change sings. I show others tolerance, though it might take some courage. I don't make a taller fence, but fight to build a bigger bridge. I talk not only of distances from where and how we came, I also walk our differences to show we are the same. I'm a movement that roars and springs. There's a wave where my change sings. Change sings where, there inside me, because I am the change I want to see. As I grow, it grows like seeds. I am just what the world needs. I'm the voice where freedom rings. You're the love your bright heart brings. We are the wave starting to spring. For we are the change we sing, where what the world is becoming, and we know it won't be long. We all hear change strumming. Won't you sing along? All right, so we'll sing our children out. And I don't know the song, so you're going to have to help me out here. Come on. Our prayer today is based on the original words of Reverend David Breeden, who we are grateful for his time here at Eliot. I invite you now into the spirit of prayer and meditation, spirit of life, our heritage calls, echoing voices, urging love, summoning joy. From the wisdom and folly of elders, traditions persist, for good and ill, a shared story when told in truths. The truth is that we are woven together, aware through traditions, the whispers in ancient oak, the laughter of the young together. In all our veins flows the one blood of history, promises broken, injustices done. Forgive the past as best we can know it, the true and the real, a heartbeat, a sob, love, longing, a vision beyond time's horizon, roots deep, branches reaching. Treasure the heritage, for heritage is a treasure, binding us together, united in the quest to free each other. Today, we remember and honor Genevieve Turner, a founding member of this congregation. Genevieve passed away this week at the age of 109. That is amazing. And what an amazing life she lived. So send our thoughts to her family and be grateful that she was a part of this community. So let's take a moment to share in meditative silence. into this space, you may speak or silently share the names of those we would hold up in prayer. And I'm going to take the lead on this with keeping both Israel and Palestine in our hearts today. In the name of that timeless love which has moved in us through the ages, this we pray. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated for our meditative hymn, number 175. We celebrate the web of life. At Eliot, you are a generous people dedicated to the commitment of the community around you. Each month, you share half of your Sunday offerings with a local organization that lives your values in and through their work. This October, you are sharing your plate with the Migrant and Immigrant Community Action Project, and today we welcome Carlos Ruiz Martinez, MICA's Director of Client Services, as he shares a few words about MICA's mission. Yeah, help yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really bad at gauging the distance to the microphone, so just give me a thumbs up.
Closer's better.
Okay, closer is better. Okay, it's a pattern in my life. But my name is Carlos Ruiz Martinez, and I'm the Director of Client Support Services at the Migrant and Immigrant Community Action Project, more commonly known as MICA. Thank you all for having us. Although it is my first time here at Eliot, I am familiar with the name and the congregation. I hear and see Eliot plugged in different social justice areas in the region, which is really, really great to see. And I hope that we can continue to build on this relationship between Eliot and MICA. So now to tell you a little bit more about MICA. We're a community organization, and we're committed to working with low-income immigrants overcome barriers to justice. And we do that through legal services, immigration legal services in particular, organizing and education. And ultimately we want to uphold the voice and dignity of all immigrant communities. So we provide legal services to asylum seekers. I know asylum is a big term that you're hearing about right now, but also to folks who are survivors of violent crimes in the United States or survivors of domestic violence. And a lot of the asylum cases that we take are folks who are part of a particular social group, right? Either part of the LGBTQ community, right? Or part of an indigenous community in their home countries and have suffered persecution. So we represent approximately 850 clients at the MICA project. That number is a bit squishy, right? Because there's sometimes derivative family members, right, that arise, et cetera, et cetera. So that number is always in flux, right? But 800 it gives you in the range. And we do that by providing legal services, representation, right, in immigration court, but we also have the client support services department that I oversee, and we provide general comprehensive case management to sort of equip and empower clients to navigate complex systems in the city and ultimately build the confidence so that they can thrive in the region. And ultimately, we want St. Louis, right? We want St. Louis to be a welcoming community for immigrants, and we can't do it alone, right? We work hard, we have a growing staff, but we can only make this much of an impact considering the need, right? And it takes all of us, and I invite you to join our efforts, right? Some of you all already doing that. I will be outside in the, I'm not sure what the name is, but Adams Hall after the service. Feel free to come talk to me, come chat. In terms of a call to action, we have a trivia night coming up. I encourage you to sign up, right? But there's much more. Come chat with me, see what your skills are, what your interests are, how you can plug into MICA, and I'd love to get to know you a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Carlos. So on that note, let our generosity show our appreciation for this important work. I invite the ushers to please come forward. Thank you. Please join me in dedicating these gifts with the words printed in the order of service. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry in love and justice, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you so much. So the reading today, I apologize, it's not in your order of service because I forgot to provide Krista with one. you know how it goes when you're a busy person. So I actually found something I really loved last night. It's adapted a little bit from an organization called the Heritage Council. And it's part of it is its marketing is Ireland for tourists and things like that. So I kind of edited some of the commercialism out of it, but the message just really rings true about how important heritage is. So if anybody's interested, I can share that link with you. Our heritage is what we have inherited from the past to value and enjoy in the present and to preserve and pass on to future generations. Our heritage is comprised of the tangible, including historical sites and buildings and monuments, objects and museums and artifacts and archives. It also is comprised of the natural, including waterways and landscapes and woodlands and bogs and uplands and native wildlife and insects, plants, trees, birds, animals, rivers, you name it. The intangible includes customs, sport, music, dance, folklore, crafts, skills, and traditions. Our tangible, intangible, and natural heritage and all the associated myths, legends, traditions, and memories provide us with a common language and insight that enables us to communicate on a deep level with each other and to express ourselves in a unique way to the outside world. Heritage is important because in helping shape our identity, our heritage becomes part of what we are. Our expression of this identity shows others what we value, and it highlights our values and our priorities. Our heritage provides clues to our past and how our society has evolved. It helps us examine our history and traditions and enables us to develop an awareness about ourselves. It helps us to understand and explain why we are the way we are. Heritage is a keystone of our culture that plays an important role in politics, society, business, and worldview. It informs, influences, and inspires public debate and policy both directly and indirectly. Preserving heritage is important because a heritage project can be much more than just preserving and protecting artifacts of the past. Heritage is fragile. It develops so much in terms of important human experiences and enjoyment. It enriches our lives, allows us to define ourselves, but needs constant protection and development. This will ensure that the best elements of our heritage will be passed on to our children and their children in turn. So, Brad, next, thank you.
So the first time I heard this song, I thought it was about a woman, actually, and I had to look it up. It's called Caledonia. It's by a Scottish singer-songwriter named Dougie MacLean. And what I found is that the word Caledonia is actually another word for an area of northern England or Scotland. So it's actually a love song to where he's from. I don't know, you can see the changes that have come over me these past few days. I've been afraid I might drift away. So I've been telling old stories, singing songs. Made me think about where I came from, and that's the reason why I seem so far away today. Let me tell you that I love you and that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. And if I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. I have moved and I've kept on moving, proved the points that I needed proving, lost the friends that I needed losing, found others on the way, kissed some ladies and left them crying, stole some dreams, yes, there's no denying, traveled hard sometimes, conscience flying somewhere in the wind. Let me tell you that I love you and that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Here I sit before the fire, empty room and the forest choir. The flames that couldn't get any higher, well, they've withered now, they've gone. Choices made, now my way is clear. I know what I will do tomorrow. When the hands are shook and the kisses flown, I will disappear. Let me tell you that I love you and that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. And if I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
So I'm a firm believer in sacred synchronicities, and my reading today was from the Heritage Council of Ireland, so to see that kind of connection, and we haven't talked to each other before this morning, so so it's kind of lovely. So now we get to hear me talk. As I said, my name is Robin Berkeley. I am the president of what is currently known as the First Unitarian Church of Alton. And we voted a couple weeks ago to change our name because we are leaving Alton and moving more towards the Edwardsville, Glen Carbon area in general, largely because there's growth opportunities there. And our building is old, and it's just, we can't do it. We're shrinking and we're not growing in Alton. The climate has really changed in Alton in the last few years. So it is what it is. We have accepted that, and we've made some really hard choices to get us to where we are today. So I'm going to try to share some of that and put it in the context of what it means to have heritage and our UU values and our principles. My full-time gig is the one that pays my bills. I'm a professor at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, and I am a business professor. So I don't study finance because that bores me. I study people and culture and discrimination and things like that, things that just really resonate to me as a UU, but even though I got into it even before I identified as a UU, because it just matters deeply that we understand those who are marginalized, similar to the work that he does with Micah. So culture and change are a big part of what I do when I go in and do consulting with companies. I work with a local consulting agency, and I do some work on my own, but primarily I let somebody else do the marketing, and I kind of reach in and try to do what I can. And I do an enormous amount of diversity culture training and consulting, helping organizations to develop diversity plans and diversity initiatives, to really value differences. And it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love. But all of this really ties to this notion of heritage, because heritage and culture almost go hand in hand. Heritage is where we came from. And culture also is about where we came from, where we are now, and where we want to go. We can't change our heritage. It is what it is. Culture can change, but oh boy, it changes glacially. Have you ever tried to make a change on anything? Trust me. I can tell you what we've gone through at Alton, which is part of what I'm going to talk about today. But yeah, that glacial change, it can happen. It can happen. But I want to remind you that there's 3 guarantees that we have in life. And 2 of them I'm going to attribute to Ben Franklin, right? We're going to die. We're going to pay taxes. Doesn't matter who's in office. I mean, let's be real. And at the end of the day, everything changes. I mean, I kind of come from a Buddhist perspective, hence the song that we did earlier today, which was really resonated for me. I come from that Buddhist perspective that things are going to change, and our goal is to not be attached, but to be open to what comes before you and comes ahead of you. So I am sort of the accidental congregational president. I didn't plan on it right away and had been asked several times, but I had young kids that needed my attention. And I said, when the time is right, I'll step up, but right now is just not the time. My kids had special needs and they needed my undivided attention when it came to church business. But as I stepped into that role, I realized that it was going to be a transition, and it was going to be really hard, and that we needed to make some hard choices about where we were headed and what we were doing and how we were going to go about doing that. So just a little bit of background. The Alton Church is 187 years old. Yes, thank you, I know. And it's old. And we've been in that building since late 1800s, maybe. Like, we had a building and then it burned and whatever, and then we had a place where people just met in their living room, of course, like most UU fellowships. But we've been in this building largely for probably about 100 years. And we've had our struggles, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we've had large bursting at the seams congregations, and then we've been like, maybe we got 20 people in the seats. And, of course, as a president, I look at that and it makes me gasp, because I worry, right, about making sure that we are there, we're open, we're growing, we're doing the things that we need to do. But, we've had our issues financially as well. I remember with great, great fondness when we were having some struggles about 10 plus years ago. You guys opened up your wallets, and I am grateful for that. I can't even tell you. I mean, I remember sitting in the church in our sanctuary, and I started to cry because I couldn't imagine. Like, I grew up Catholic. We don't do that. Pretty much went up to the Pope and go, money, But the fact that we had each other's back, and that mattered so much to me, and made me start to think about how we are interdependent ourselves. And even though we are independent congregations and churches or chapels or whatever we want to call ourselves, and I love working with Krista now about we're interdependent with each other. We need each other. We'll have your back, you'll have our back, and that matters to me tremendously. I could sit here and tell you our long history, but I really wouldn't be able to do it justice, because I'm not a historian, but Mary Johnson, who is our past historian, can sit here and she could talk your ear off for about 3 or 4 hours about our history and who we had, and we had ministers and abolitionists and done all sorts of things in Alton. And so, overall, heritage matters to us. And this decision for us to change was a struggle, and it still is for many people. But heritage matters not only for us as a congregation, as an entity, as an organization, but it also, I think, heritage is relevant to our UU values, our UU principles, and where we should be headed, in our lives. So let me give you a little bit of background, because, no story is complete without a little bit of background and context. I'm a contextualist. So you all probably know or remember, some of you may remember Kleber Van Zandt. He was a member here for a while. He became our minister, and I joined the church in 2010 when he was in the midst of obviously being the height of his ministerial time with us. And after he left for Florida, of course, we were devastated because we had enormous passion and love for Kleber. We had grown that congregation to bursting in the seams, and we had 2 services a day, and on Sundays, and it was just a lot. But we were finding that there were issues with financials, and we weren't sure why. And that's hence why we asked, you all offered your support, and we kind of figured it all out eventually. But we had an interim, and we used the interim process for 3 years, which was really long, and it probably wasn't the most ideal interim process. But nonetheless, we went into it with an open heart and open mind. Some things we liked, some things were like, yeah, it's not going to work. We want to bring the bell back. We like the bell. Sorry, Sunshine. We want our bell back. So those little kinds of things, right? But one thing that I will credit Pastor Wolf, Sunshine Wolf, with is telling us that we needed to get rid of the building. And everybody was like, not just no, but hell no. Because here's the bottom line, right? We didn't have a mortgage. Why would you walk away from a building when you don't have a mortgage? Like, it makes sense, except that it's a 100-plus-year-old building that needed electricity and painting and roofs, and the basement flooded. Don't even get me started with Christmas Eve this year. I'll get into that. So, yeah, we had a flood in the basement, over $100,000 worth of damage. Thank you, Church Mutual. So we knew then, which was mid-2014-15, that we really needed to get rid of the building. The conversation was starting at that time, and we all rejected it out of hand. Nope, that wasn't going to happen. So we had a couple of interims. It was kind of a rough process. We had a failed search, so we didn't have a seated minister, so we had one more year of, not of Sunshine, but DC Fortune was our minister, shared with Emerson for about a year, and then we decided to hire a very green, lovely but very green minister who really didn't know a lot about being a UU. She had come to it at Eden and was interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism. And she also did not have, I would say, the ability to understand how to deal with all of the pain that we were all feeling at that time. And it was huge for her, and I totally understand that. I love her to death, but it's, she and I have had conversations like, you weren't ready for this, she said. Nope. And I get it. I'm not gonna be mad at you for that. So let me fast forward and then to 2019. We had been finding some budget irregularities. We had 2 treasurers that were like, this doesn't look right. Something's not adding up. And we found out that we had somebody who was our office manager, who sadly was a minister, a Methodist minister. He had just graduated from Eden, and he had embezzled about $40,000 from us, which you might say it's $40,000. For a small church, it's a hell of a lot of money. And it's painful, right, to think about that. We're still chasing him down. Like we were supposed to have an agreement like a year and change ago about, to show up, and he would be on probation and all that sort of stuff. He never showed up. Like there's a warrant for his arrest out there. And we found him. Yay! He's in Washington, D.C. somewhere, going to school there, and so I'm on with the state's attorney going, we need to get this guy. So I don't know what's going on. I always, once a month call, Bill and say, hey, so what's going on with Philip? And, and he gives me the update. So we're hoping one day we'll be able to bring him in to hold him accountable with love, but to hold him accountable, right? We don't want him to do this to somebody else. Because if you don't know that, if it doesn't show up on a background check, if you don't understand what somebody's done, you can be victims again to that. And that was a very painful experience for us as well. And then we had some issues, right, where there was a lot of infighting that didn't quite work itself out. But we did start, once we started to see this budget irregularities, we realized that there was an embezzlement going on. We had started this discussion of stay or go. The board at the time said, let's really push people to engage in a stay or go discussion. We'll have this group will do stay, this group will do go, and they pretty much said, well, you go ahead and just figure it out and let us know what you want to do. Which sounded really good in principle, but in change management, you need a leader. You need somebody that's going to say, we need to think about these things, and you need to incrementally move people towards that decision. You can't just throw it in their laps and go to town, make it happen. So I was even on the go team, right? And I'm not sure that I wanted to go. I mean, I love the building. It's beautiful. You walk in there, it's like your heart is so happy. It's like walking in here. Like you feel like this is a place that resonates for you spiritually. So really, I'm not sure that I wanted to leave that space. A lot of people weren't sure that they did, but there were some that were very adamant that we needed to go. And part of it had to do with handicapped accessibility. We don't have any parking. You cannot drive up to the door of our building and walk people in. You actually have to walk a long way or climb upstairs. It was great for the 1800s, just not so good for 2020 and beyond. So we had some volatile meetings. I'm not ashamed to say that. I got to be honest about it. I got to be honest about the good and the not so good. We had a volatile meeting. People almost came to fisticuffs. And then we stopped. And then, graciously, 2020 happened and the pandemic happened. So it enabled us to sort of cool off for a while and just table the discussion. And as that pandemic started, we were still dealing with the repercussions of the embezzlement. There was no movement on the stay or go decision. They had some frustrations with our minister, who was young and green and lovely, but couldn't really manage the massive changes that we needed to undergo. And literally every member of the board but one quit in one fell swoop. Some of them left the church permanently. Some of them stayed on board but took a back seat for a while, which was fine. And eventually another board member kind of came back a year later. So we had two that had been part of that experience. And that was useful for us because we needed to know what didn't work. And we can only know that not from hypotheticals of well, I heard so-and-so said, because, there's not a lot of truth in that. We needed to hear directly from the people who were in those volatile meetings what worked and what was not working and how can we fix it. So we had to start from scratch, and that's when I became the accidental president. I'm in year 4 right now. And I have one more year to go. So I did we have 3-year terms at Alton. So I had my 3-year term. And then normally I would have, rotated off. But given all of the massive changes we had going on, I made the commitment to not see a leadership change, because I think that's really important when you're dealing with some major changes. So I said, I am committed to stay till we make a moving decision and we get into a new place. I said, and then I'm done. And they're all like, we understand. I'm like, okay, just so we're clear. So we had a lot of things to deal with, and there's a lot of healing that needed to happen. Number 1, from the embezzlement. Number 2, from people that still hadn't quite healed from the fact that Kleber had left. There were still people holding on to that and really hadn't fully processed that. And it is what it is. But I'm not going to judge, because people are in the place they are emotionally, and those are authentic and authentic feelings and needed to be dealt with. And I don't think in our interim process we did a good job of that. So between that, the pandemic, because good grief, that was crazy, and then we had to hustle to figure out what we were going to do, and then just realizing that so many people, had faded away after we went, into the pandemic, and how were we going to rebuild? So the first year, 2020 to 2021, we spent a lot of time just getting back on our feet, sort of figuring out the lay of the land, understanding things, healing circles, everything that we could do to sort of let people express what they needed to express, so that nothing was hidden, nothing was going to be locked away in a closet and ignored. Because if you ignore people's feelings, I am telling you, as somebody who does this kind of work for a living, when you don't allow people to express their feelings, it comes and finds you somewhere else. It's kind of a Pema Chodron, quote too, right? Like, if you don't deal with it now, it's going to chase you until you deal with it. And that's really where we were at. We knew we needed to deal with it. So that was year one. It was just like, let's just get our feet underneath us. Claudia was our congregational consultant, who is now our minister, but we had our congregational consultant, and we were like, okay, let's just help. She helped us out. She got us on our feet. Then year two, we made some decisions, and we decided we wanted to bring in a minister, a part-time minister. And I can't tell you the elation we had when Krista applied. You are so fortunate. I'm a little jealous, I will say. But I love Claudia, so there's nothing about Claudia. It's all about how much I really loved working with Krista. So we decided to bring on a minister. So that happened year three. But year two was all those decisions, right? We had listening sessions from people. What do you feel about this place? What do you feel about this? And we understood that in order for us to get people to be on board with this, we, as the board, needed to do that work. Some people might disagree with me. That's okay. It's what worked for us. We as a board said, we're going to do some of that homework because, we were still virtual. There's only so much you can do. So we didn't have building to worry about other than making sure the electricity was on and the pipes didn't freeze. We said, let's figure that out. Just where I am with time. Okay. So I want to move forward here really quickly. So we ended up making some changes, listening to people, developing pros and cons, doing some research, presenting it to them at our congregational meeting in 2022. And while the vote wasn't a slam dunk, we decided to leave. And that was hard because there were people in tears. I was in tears. I literally fell apart, after the vote was taken because I knew this was a difficult decision and I knew people were struggling. But we needed to understand why people resisted moving and why people wanted to move. We needed to hear both sides authentically and honestly. So between accessibility, parking, building repairs, burnout, not enough volunteers, shrinking congregation because of the pandemic, we said, okay, let's just do this. And we actually came out stronger from the pandemic, which is kind of unusual for a lot of churches. We actually gained members, weird, and we were more financially stable because we didn't have a lot of the expenses. And we had a business analyst and a CPA that we brought on board, which is the best decision that we ever made financially. And so now I just turn to them and go, just tell me what we're doing, tell me what's in the budget, and I will spend it, or not. So let me talk about change management really quickly because I know we want to end up here. Change management has a couple of different steps. Number one, you need to create urgency when you deal with change and heritage and things like that. And you need to form coalitions. Then you need to create a vision for change, communicate that vision, empower people to act on the vision. Create short-term wins, because short-term wins are the way to go. Because it gets so overwhelming when you see a big thing. It's like, let's just do incremental, like this win and this win and this win. We want to hold on the gains that we make and build on our change and anchor the changes in our heritage and our culture. And that's what we did. Heritage has to be in the middle of any change that you make. Your culture, understanding your people, understanding what they value, giving people voice so that they feel heard. And in the midst of all this, we created our covenant of right relationship, and we built that. So we had to remember, and I thank Dee Evans for this, that we had to remember that we were a congregation, not a church, which is why our name now is the Metro East Unitarian Universalist Congregation, because the emphasis is on the people, not the building. And we still have people struggling with that, but we've gotten everybody on board. And when some of your longtime members are like, I'm so done with this building. Particularly, as I said, on Christmas Eve, we had a flood in our basement, $100,000 of damage. And then a couple of months later, we had problems with our septic system that, again, also was covered by the insurance because it was the problem with the pipes, burst and everything. It's been a year. But heritage or culture is the glue that holds everything together, no matter what you're doing. But sometimes the glue has to be super glue, right? It has to be things that you can depend on, like our UU principles, the values of your congregation, those sorts of things. And then sometime it has to be like the glue that's on the back of sticky notes, that it's good, but it has to be adaptable and amendable, and it has to be able to be open to change. And that's the hardest thing for most people, because people are okay with change. Like, you change, you can change, but I'm not going to change, right? Really, it's a given. So the goal here really is we need to use our heritage, use our culture, use our values to help you guide through whatever change you have. And it was our heritage that we held on to no matter what, our history, our values, what mattered to us. That every time we had to make a hard decision, we held on to that. Even to this day, we wear masks in our sanctuary. I know not everybody does, and I look around here and I can see that you don't, and that's okay. Everybody makes a different choice. We decided, because we felt that we wanted a welcoming space for people who are immunocompromised, and we wanted to create that welcoming. I'm not going to tell you that there isn't resistance to that, because there is. But nonetheless, we held on to that because we felt that was core UU values for us. So lastly, our reading today kind of highlights how it ties in with our 7 principles: the interdependence, the free discovery of truth and meaning, the honoring the dignity of all human beings, that interdependent web stuff, the nature. I mean, that's the stuff that holds us together as Unitarians and holds us together as an entity trying to do this work, this beautiful social justice work that we do in society. And the hope is that for all of us, that you will understand that even if you have to make some hard decisions, holding on to your heritage gently, while also allowing for change and adaptation, is going to be the way that you're going to see that path through. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we're here, we're still working, and we got people ready to move, although I haven't found a place yet to move. That's creating a lot of heartburn and anxiety for me, but we'll get to that a separate conversation another time. So that's the end of my message for today. If anybody has any questions, I will be obviously in the Adams room, is that what we call it? And I'll be there. I can answer questions. I can talk to anybody about anything. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
What are your feelings on Israel?
I've traveled in Israel.
No, right now.
No, I understand. I've traveled in Israel, and I understand what's going on there. I have pain for Israel. I have pain for Palestine. In both situations, personally, I think that both parties are caught up in hate and not on love. That's my perspective. And I like what your covenant today was like. Kindness, more kindness than we need. And I just posted something on Facebook the other day going, I'm so done with hate. I'm done with hate. It breaks my heart. So I have Palestinian friends and I have Jewish friends, and I see the pain on both sides, and it makes me sad. So hopefully we'll bring love and peace to everybody. That's the goal. Okay, thank you, everybody. Please rise in body or spirit for the final hymn, number 1024 in the teal hymnal, The Spirit Says Do, and I guess, Beth, you're going to tell us what verses we're going to sing.
We are singing Do, Sing, Dance, Do. If you forget, they're down here in teeny tiny type at the bottom. Do, sing, dance, do. We've got to do and the Spirit says do. You got to do and the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Lord, you got to do and the Spirit says do. 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 You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing. Oh Lord, you got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Got to dance when the Spirit
chalice, and I don't know where the extinguisher is here. Oh, there it is. It got moved. Great, go for it. Thank you. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the spirit of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So please stay seated for the postlude, and thank you very much for your time and attention today.
All right. I think this one's been done before, but it's a good one, so feel free to sing along. I'll try to look up for my guitar a couple times this time. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, all my memories gather round her. Miner's lady, stranger to blue waters, dark and dusty, painted on the sky. Misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eyes. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads. I hear a voice in the morning, how she called me. Radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, take me home. Country road. Thank you.
All for being here. The gift of your presence was really wonderful, and I feel very welcomed. Please go forth in peace and